On this episode of YaEat, we will be featuring Nana's fresh plum tomato and oregano focaccia pizza. We will also make 2 additional pizzas for my nephew's engagement party.
Spend some time with your family and watch this recipe, and make sure you watch to the end.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 38 of YaEat. As usual, I am really excited to have you here, and I appreciate all your support. Today we're going to be making pizza. I'm going to help cater my nephew's engagement party, and I was asked to make some appetizers. So I'm going to be making 3 types of pizza today. We'll be making a ricotta cheese with fig and prosciutto pizza with some honey and arugula and a little balsamic glaze. I'm also going to be making a fresh Campari tomato pizza. We just hand crush some fresh Campari tomatoes. And then we're also going to be making my mom or Nana's pizza, which is just fresh plum tomatoes, oregano, salt and pepper, and extra virgin olive oil. And that's it. I'm really excited and I'm ready to make some pizza. Are you ready to make some pizza? Here we go.
Print all our recipes on YaEat.tv. So before we get started with Nana's Focaccia Pizza, I made 11 of these sheet pan pizzas for my nephew's engagement party. So we had to stretch them out and let them rise a little bit. So I just placed some oil in the pan and a little oil on top, and we're going to stretch out the dough. This will be the first of a few times that we'll stretch out the dough. We're going to let it sit at room temperature for about 15 minutes. I'd like to give a quick shout out to Renato's Pizza and Restaurant in Ridgewood, New Jersey. Thank you, Renato's, for supplying the dough for today's recipes. So we're going to gently pull and stretch the dough to the edge of the pan. Do not overstretch it, and we'll revisit that shortly. So while we let this dough rise, we can get started on Nana's Focaccia Pizza. We're just going to coat the cast iron pan with some extra virgin olive oil to get started. So this dough is about 1.5 pounds, so we're going to cut it in half. And normally I would just knead this into a ball and let it rise again, but today I don't have the time, so I'm just going to mesh this together and we're just going to let it re-rise and it'll be just fine. So let's just spread the dough out into the pan, and then we're going to let that rise for about 10 minutes. So I'm going to put it on the stove top, which has a little bit of heat to it, and it'll rise a little bit quicker. That was a quick 10 minutes. We'll give it one more pat down as we prepare the plum tomatoes and put it back on the stove to rise a little more. Okay, there's really not much to this recipe. What we're going to do is we're going to core the plum tomato, and we're just going to hand crush it. Just make sure you set yourself up where you have some good leverage, where you can use your body weight to apply pressure on the plum tomato to crush it. You're really looking to split the tomato into nice sized pieces. After crushing the tomato, you're ready to place them on top of the dough. Let's just give the dough one more stretch out to fit the pan. And let's just place the tomato on top of the dough. We're just going to apply a little pressure into the dough as we do it, and a little separation from each tomato. Okay, your next step will be to season. And we're just going to season it with some salt. I think in the opening I said salt and pepper, but Nana corrected me and she does not use pepper, but you can use pepper if you like. I have some really fresh oregano that I bought at an Italian specialty store based on recommendations from Nana. And this oregano is really, really delicious. And you can be quite generous with the oregano. And then we're going to drizzle some extra virgin olive oil, and we're going to place it in the oven at 450 degrees for about 10 to 15 minutes or until golden brown. So while we're baking Nana's Focaccia Pizza, we're going to get started on some of my nephew's engagement party pizza, and we're going to stretch the dough for the second time. So when we first stretched the dough out, it came right out of the refrigerator, so it was quite cold and didn't stretch as much. The second time, the dough's a lot warmer, and it is now stretching to the edges of the pan a lot easier. Now, only because I'm going to be pre-baking these, I'm just actually going to prick these with a fork a little bit to make sure that they don't bubble up on me. I'm going to cook this dough about 50%. At 450 degrees. Dough did bubble up a little bit, but that's fine. It's time to take Nana's Focaccia Pizza out of the oven, and look at that. Yummy. Nana's fresh plum tomato and oregano Focaccia Pizza. You eat? You want to eat? Make this recipe. It's delicious. So for the fresh Campari tomato and fresh mozzarella pizza that I'll be making for my nephew's engagement party, we're just going to start by coring out all of these tomatoes. Now, don't be alarmed by all these tomatoes. If you're making a pizza, you probably need about 4 of them. After removing all the cores from the tomato, you can start to hand crush them. And I like it to be a very chunky consistency, but you can crush them as much as you like. Once the tomatoes reached the consistency of my liking, I added some perfect pinch Italian seasoning and some salt. We had some diet restrictions, so normally I would add some garlic powder and some black pepper, but I had to omit that. So I have some fresh mozzarella here, and you can cut this however you like, but I just cut it in half and cut it in half again to make it into quarters. And then we will cut that into slices. And I like to slice it on the thicker side, about 1/4 to 1/2 inch. Okay, so my prep work is done. So I'm going to grab one of the pre-baked doughs, and we're going to add the Campari tomato to the top, a generous amount. I'm going to add the chunks and the juice. Sometimes it's just easier to use your hands. So let's spread the tomato nice and evenly to the edge of the dough, and then we're just going to layer some fresh mozzarella on top. And we'll finish it off with some pecorino romano cheese. Now, because I'm making these ahead of time for a party, I'm going to cook these about 75% and then finish them off at the engagement party. So I had another half dough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another pizza in the cast iron with the fresh Campari tomato and the fresh mozzarella. You don't need to pre-bake this dough, and this pizza is going to be a little bit thicker than the sheet pan. And again, you're going to put this in the oven at 450 degrees for about 10 to 15 minutes or until nicely golden brown. So we're going to grab one of the pre-baked dough and we're going to get started on the ricotta, fig, and prosciutto pizza. All I did was I spread out some ricotta cheese just like I'm spreading icing on a cake. We're going to add some fresh mozzarella on top of that, and we're just going to place that in the oven and cook it to about the 75% mark. Okay, ready to take out our fresh Campari tomato and mozzarella pizza. We're going to finish off with some fresh basil, and we are done with that pizza. Fresh Campari tomato and fresh mozzarella pizza. You eat? You want to eat? Make this recipe. It's delicious. So we just have to finish pre-baking all of our sheet pan pizza for our engagement party. And we will finish these off at the engagement party. Fig, prosciutto, and arugula pizza. You eat? You want to eat? Make this recipe. It's delicious.
Well, that wraps up this week's episode. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed our 3 pizza recipe. We had a great time at the engagement party, and I'd like to wish the happy couple all the best. And we'll be back again next Wednesday. And so thank you for watching, and we will see you again next week. Have a great week.
Who is it? Some girl.
Hello, Kay?
I love you. Michael, I love you. Tell me you love me. Tell me you love me. Tell me you love me.
Yeah, I can't talk.
Can you say it? Tell me you love me. Tell me you love me. Tell me you love me.
Yeah, I'll see you tonight.
I love you.
Hey, Mikey, why don't you tell that nice girl you love her? I love you with all of my heart. If I don't see you again soon, I'm gonna die. Hey, come over here, kid. Learn something. You never know, you might have to cook for 20 guys someday. You see, you start out with a little bit of oil, and you fry some garlic. Then you throw in some tomatoes, some tomato paste. You fry it, you make sure it doesn't stick. You got it to a boil, you shove in all your sausage and your meatballs. Huh? And a little bit of wine. And a little bit of sugar. And that's my trick.
Why don't you cut the crap? I got more important things for you to do. How's Paulie?
Oh, Paulie, won't see him no more.
Here's an offer you shouldn't refuse. Subscribe to this channel.